Good morning. You are listening to Go Uni Radio 106.9 FM, the heartbeat of dialogue. Time check in the studio is 18 minutes past 10. And you are listening to Special Roundtable here on 106.9 FM. And today, it is our pleasure to have in our midst Dr. Claudia Kaminski, a medical doctor, and an experienced freelancer journalist who have worked with within the Vatican media as a freelancer and the Vatican News as well. So it is very, very important for you to note that she is not representing Radio Vatican, but she is a freelancer in Radio Vatican, and she has been sharing her professional insights and experiences from her work in global and faith-based media, with a unique background that bridges both medicine and journalism. She brings a thoughtful and human-centered perspective to storytelling, particularly in communicating messages that resonates across culture and continents. Welcome, Dr. Claudia.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me here.
So, Dr. Claudia, what can you tell us about your journey as a freelancer and what led you to work as a freelancer in Radio Vatican?
It's quite a long story, but I will try to cut it short. I always wanted to be a missionary, and I always wanted to study medicine. So I started with that, and I studied medicine. And during my studies, I went to Africa, I went to Brazil, I went to Afghanistan, Pakistan, to work in all these places. And but during my studies, I was invited to a big event of pro-lifers in Germany. And I just went there because I wanted to meet a medical student who had worked in Bangladesh, and I wanted to know about his experience. So I went there, but I saw that they had some problems in that organization, and they elected me vice president of the pro-life movement in Germany. So out of nothing, out of the blue. And that made me not start working in Switzerland, where I had a very good contract. And I think most people might know that the Swiss pay high salaries, high wages. But I decided to do something for the pro-life movement and stayed in Germany. And that is crucial for my further career, because I always wanted to do, and I always sought God's will. When I was in Brazil, I told him, I want to be a missionary. You know that I want to be a medical doctor in foreign countries. But he showed me your places in Germany, but I didn't know what it would be. So then I learned it was in the pro-life movement. So I stayed in Germany, and I was president of that pro-life movement, of the pro-life movement in Germany for 20 years. And you know that it's really crucial to do something for the unborn children. And not going to Switzerland made me stay in Germany to work first in surgery as a medical doctor, and then in obstetrics and gynecology. And that's where the show begins. I loved delivering babies. I loved working in that field. But in Germany, it's very difficult to be an obstetrician, to work in gynecology without abortions as a Catholic, without sterilizations, without IVF, so with all these implications which you can't do as a Catholic, and even talking about the early morning pill or the morning after pill. So I was in TV discussions about pro-life issues, and I fought against those big heads of the society of obstetricians and gynecologists. So, and one of them told me, I will see to it that you will never get a medical job again. So that was kind of pushy and very hard. And then I was offered, after that, I got jobs and I stayed in the medical service, but then I got offered a job at the communications department to lead the communication department of the Order of Malta in Germany, which is a big relief organization with about 100,000 volunteers all over Germany, and even with a big international organization, which is called Malteser International. So they offered me a job, and I thought that's perfect, because then I don't have to do night shifts. I don't have to work on on weekends, and I can use my talents even more. You know, the medical issues, then the languages, working in the international field and relief organization. So that's how I came into communication, and that even gave me the possibility, which is part of my life as well, to be there for my parents. You know, my parents grew elderly, and I had the possibility to be with them more on the weekends and to look after them. And when my father died, then my mother died, and I gave up pull-out movement then to be able to work more internationally again. So to leave Germany. So I started working for Radio Vatican. They had asked me to work as a freelancer, and then they offered me a job. And I said, okay, sounds good. I'd love to work for the Vatican, but I would like to do more. And at the same time, I got the possibility to work for a German-speaking TV channel, which is broadcasting in Austria, Switzerland, and Germany. So that's part-time job I have with the TV channel, now with Radio Vatican. I've got my own radio program every Saturday night on Radio Vatican. And, well, that's how I came into broadcasting and faith-based media. And I think it's very good to have the possibility to do that with your talents, that you can speak, that you can present, and that you can talk about faith.
If you're just tuning in, this is 106.9 FM. And if you are live with us at Facebook, you are listening at Go Uni Radio 106.9 FM. You can as well follow us on YouTube at Go Uni Radio 106.9 FM, and then at Facebook and Instagram at 1069 Go Uni Radio. All right, Dr. Claudia, how do you balance journalistic objectivity with spiritual mission?
It's not an easy question, but I think if you do journalism also for the Vatican, you have to. The aim is to transport spirituality, and I think we have so many media who don't do it. So I think it's a very good idea to have these media like Radio Vatican, my TV channel, to spread the word, to talk about the love of God, to talk about charity, to talk about optimism and hope, to talk about these things, and the Catholic Church, the Catholic faith. Because I don't know about Nigeria, but secular media in Germany don't really talk about Catholic issues. And that's why it's good that we have Radio Vatican, which you can hear and read all over the world.
Okay, so coming to you as a freelancer at Radio Vatican, how does Vatican media address sensitive global issues such as conflicts, poverty, and social justice? How do they address such problems?
Well, first of all, it's the voice of the Pope. So what is always very important to us is to get the messages the Pope sends out when he talks about, for example, when he prays the Angelus every Sunday at 12 o'clock. He would have a message for the world. He would talk about conflicts. He would talk about war. He would ask for prayers for, conflicts, for people after earthquakes, after, catastrophes. So we would always try and take these messages and promote them and, put them in the newsletter. They would be the headline so that people know about it, and also to show that the Pope cares and that he prays for it. So that you have both. You've got the political message, but you've always got the prayer as well.
That's amazing. Now, coming to Africa, particularly Nigeria, Nigeria has a vibrant and a growing Catholic population. So tell me, how is Vatican media amplifying African voices and story?
Well, first of all, there are two sections, which I think at least two, which do African programs. So we've got, I think, a French African and an English African program in Radio Vatican. So there's something Radio Vatican really tries to do to communicate that. But for the German section, I have to say that we get all the news all over the world. And for example, when we hear about kidnapping of priests in Nigeria or in Africa or in other countries, we would always put them in the newsletter and take these messages to get people informed, and that they can have the possibility to pray for these people and pray for them. So we get the news about catastrophes from all over the world, even Nigeria as well, when there's flooding or heat or things like that. So we take them, but we've got one special program that's called the Sisters Project. And in that Sisters Project, we get stories from sisters, so religious sisters from all over the world, that are translated in all the languages we have in Radio Vatican, so that we can really spread the word of the good things, the good deeds the Catholic Church does all over the world, in Nigeria as well, and even through religious sisters.
That's amazing. Well, from your experience, what unique role can Africa media practitioners play in shaping ethical and value-driven journalism?
You mentioned the vibrant and glowing church earlier, and I failed to comment on that, because that's, to be honest, that's what I would expect from Nigeria, from Africa. We do have small spots where we have the impression that faith grows a little bit. I'm very cautious how to pronounce that and how to say that. But what I've seen here is so amazing. It gives me so much joy and hope for the future of the church, to see you people here in Nigeria, the way you believe, the way you celebrate Mass. I just have to say, I've never seen lay people like really lie down in front of the tabernacle to worship the Lord. I mean, you wouldn't see that. Even kneeling, is kind of rarely seen. You can see it, elderly people, if they are still able to do it, they would kneel down. But nobody would lie down, in the middle of the church, in front of the altar, in front of the tabernacle, on an ordinary Sunday. I mean, so that's amazing, and I'd really love you to transport that. I don't have the means. I couldn't tell you how to do that, but it's so amazing, and it brings so much hope and joy. And I wish Europe, our churches, would see more of that joy and more of that faith, and and that vibrance. That it's really amazing, and I really encourage you. I'm using Maggie's word now. I really encourage you to do that, to talk about that. I know, only bad news are news, but we are there to change that. So talk about the good news and this faith you have here, and that's a good news.
Thank you. I must tell you that, based on experience, whenever you do that, lie down to talk to God, once you are done, when you're living outside the sacrament, you feel relieved. You feel your prayers has been answered. But let's not just go into that. With the rise of the social media and digital platform, how is Vatican News adapting to reach to the younger audiences, like to the younger generation?
Yeah. Well, maybe you can imagine that the Catholic Church has lived through 2,000 years, and things go kind of slowly in the Vatican. That means we are on social media, but it's not that we really push it. At the moment, we are discussing, for the German section and the whole radio team, we are discussing to get a social media manager. So can you imagine that? Up to now in the Vatican, we didn't have one social media manager who would, kind of look on all the platforms we have. We are on Instagram, we are on Facebook, but we don't, and we're on X, but and TikTok starts now, but it's not the communication that's everybody, every section does whatever they think they should do. So we're going to centralize that just right now at the moment. That's what's done at the moment. So we're trying to get these followers, but as you can imagine, it's not that easy to get followers in the young field, in the young population and generation, with the messages we have. But I'm counting on the grace. I'm counting on God that He will find that He will let His people find those social media, and they will come also to Radio Vatican.
Thank you. So what do you have to say about, or okay, let me redirect the question. What are your challenges and some hurdles you face in maintaining credibility and trust in digital formation age?
I didn't understand that really.
Like the challenges you faced maintaining the credibility and trust in the digital formation age, this digital age of ours.
Well, as we can see, that's it is very difficult. I don't know what it was like for Nigeria, but when Pope Leo was elected, there were so many fake news around him, around his person, that he had appeared, going to the Swiss Guard, visiting them and praying with them. And you had videos, they were really fake videos. They were all over the place.
Using AI
or AI generated pictures of him and prayers and everything. They were all over the place. So we really have to look on that and see what is communicated. So it's getting more difficult in the digital age. But I always think. I also think that we have to use AI, and everybody uses AI in some way or the other. For example, for translations, we get texts from all over the world. So and we don't speak all the languages in the German section. So we use DeepL to translate, or Google Translate, but DeepL German is better if I may say so. And we have to try and use these things to get better in everything.
So what has been the most fulfilling aspect of your work so far?
Well, to be honest, it was the pandemic. If you remember, I don't know what it was like in Nigeria, but I was already working for Radio Vatican, and then the pandemic came, and we didn't have a lockdown in Germany. But when I was in Italy, in Rome, we got a lockdown there, and that meant that everyone was in panic because we didn't know what happened. The law was very, very strict. We were not allowed to go out. We had to sign a self-declaration if we wanted to go shopping, if we wanted to go or had to go to work. And in the beginning, we're like 6-7 people in the German section, and we had a meeting on that second day of lockdown, and we were told that Pope Francis is going to broadcast Holy Mass every morning at 7 o'clock. Or they didn't say every morning, but they said it's starting and it's at 7 o'clock, and we have to translate, we have to comment on that, we need someone for that. And I was looking around, and my colleagues, all younger than I am, family members with small children, and I kind of sensed the panic, because nobody knew what was going to happen, and they didn't know what was going to happen at home with the children and everything. So I was like shrugging my shoulders, and so if you don't have anybody, I can do that for you tomorrow morning, next morning. So that was quite an event, because I was stuck in Rome for 3 months. I did that transmission with Pope Francis every single morning, 7 o'clock,
Wow.
steady. When we start the program, we always say, Laudetur Jesus Christus, so we start with that. And every morning it was like, doing it, but it was so beautiful. That was really a beautiful experience, because I had, the eye contact, not eye contact, but, to do something for the church, to do something for Pope Francis, and what we heard from the listeners was just amazing. They were so grateful to have that mass, because where could you turn to? You had no possibility really to get help. Churches all over Europe were closed, and so I really loved that experience, even if it meant that I couldn't go home to Cologne, to my own place, for 3 months. So, but we had the liturgy on Easter, on Pentecost, and you in situations like that, you really stick together. So what happened on Palm Sunday, there was this Spanish priest next to me in the cabin, and we came out, and he said, "Claudia, are you having mass today? Can you celebrate somewhere?" And I was like, "No." And he said, "Okay, meet me in the chapel of Radio Vatican, half an hour. I will do the liturgy for you." And can you imagine what that means? One priest doing the whole Palm Sunday liturgy just for me. It really brought me to tears. But that was it was a gift from God. That was His grace, because staying in Rome, being at the Vatican, I had Mass every day, almost every day. Had I been in Cologne, other churches were closed. So it was a gift. I had Holy Communion, I had the Eucharist, I had a chapel with the Holy Eucharist, with the Holy Sacrament. So I was really blessed. That was my best experience in Radio Vatican.
Wow. Having said all of those, I mean, it's really amazing. It's really amazing. So what does a typical day looks like for you as a freelancer with the Radio Vatican?
Well, my day is about the same as for all the others in our German section. So we come to the radio, which is near the Castello Sant'Angelo. I don't know how to say that in English. It's near the St. Angel's Castle. So it's between the river Tiber and St. Peter's Dome. So that's where our office is, the radio. So we get there, then we check news first. So what happened in the world? What happened in Germany, Switzerland, in the German-speaking countries? Then, sure, we have to look at the schedule of the Pope.
Okay.
Who is coming? Who is visiting? Will there be audiences? Will he meet some big people like statesmen, something like that? So we try to organize ourselves around the news that are there. The team of Radio Vatican always has a chief, who is in charge of the content that is going to be produced. Then there's one person who's every day responsible for the daily radio I don't know how radio journal. We have a radio journal every day.
Okay.
So one person has to cut that to get all the news together. At around noon, we have a meeting to discuss the news and arrange, the work we are doing. And the radio has to we call it Radio Giornale. That's at 4 o'clock, and at 6 o'clock. So it has to be ready by then. That's the main thing we have to do that day.
Oh, I see.
And then we go out to have interviews. We discuss.
I was
that.
about to ask that because I know in the likes of Christian Amapo, she's always at the forefront trying to get that local news from the citizens. So I was about to ask you, this is your typical activities daily in Radio Vatican. How much about trying to get some local news, organic ones from the citizens around you? But
yeah, exactly. So. It depends. If there are events in the Vatican, like audiences or big events like Easter or celebrations, canonizations, we go out with our microphones and try to get people on the street.
Yeah.
For example, when Pope Leo was elected, you would go out and try to find German-speaking people to get...
The voice of the people really counts, yeah.
Exactly. So we call it Vox Pops,
Yeah, Vox Pop, that's
Vox
it,
Pops,
yes.
So to get that. So that's part of the job always. We work very closely with the bishop conferences in Switzerland, Austria, and Germany. So some of the bishops visit regularly because they're on some boards in the Vatican. So they would come and visit, so we can make interviews with them, or we go to their places and talk with them. or there are press conferences. We've got the Sala Stampa, which is the press conference of the Vatican, Sala Stampa. So when there are events there and presentations, book presentations, things like that, we have to cover that. So we go there and listen and then write our articles afterwards and try to get interviews about it.
Wow.
So
wow.
It's always, we are not that many people, so it's always, you have to see how to organize the work. For example, now when it's today, I think, that the Pope goes to Africa, we have to discuss who is going on the plane, who is going to Africa, who will cover that from on spot, and who is responsible for the content in the office in Rome. So it's quite a lot to do.
A whole lot. Right, what would you give us an advice, or what's your message to the young broadcasters, especially those who aspire to work in international or faith-based media?
Always stick to the truth. Don't follow ideologies, and stick to hope and optimism. And I think it's very necessary not to be attracted too much by applause. You would get that for bad news, sure enough. I learned that in my communication for the Order of Malta. If you have a dramatic scene, a drastic thing, you can be sure media will take it. But that's not the whole picture. So I know it's very difficult, but we have a very good message, and I think we should spread that. And if you Nigerians do that with your shining, glowing, vibrant faces, I think you will really make it.
I hope we adhere strictly to that advice. Very, very important. Yeah. Thank you so much. But before we go, what message would you like to share with our listeners and our listeners here in Nigeria and around the world?
It's about the same as I would tell the young broadcasters. Stick to the truth. Stick to hope and faith, and believe in the grace of God, because even if times are hard and dire, we're in His hands. During the pandemic, there were so many people in panic because they thought, I'll get ill, I'll get sick, I'll die. And I always said, okay, I might get it, but if I die or not, that's His will. God is the master of my life, and He decides whether I die from COVID in 5 years ago, or I go to Rome and die in a car accident or car crash, or I go to Nigeria, whatever happens. So many people warned me, and I said, if I won't return, it was God's will, because I'm in His hands. And that's what I want to tell you. Just believe that you're in His hands, and whatever happens, it's good for you. And even if the things are not, they seem not so good, it's just we have to learn from them. I'm a very great friend of the small Theresia of Lisieux, and her message is the one of trust and love. And I think with trust in God and love for God and the neighbor, we will make it.
Thank you so much for honoring our invitation. But before we go, I would like to divert a little from what we've discussed so far. So tell me your experience so far here in Nigeria, and I would like to ask you what kind of food, Nigerian delicacies have you tested so far, and how did you enjoy them?
Well, I've been here for a week of celebration, so okay. I guess that's not Nigeria, so it's okay. I think it's a different Nigeria from what the normal life is. I really enjoyed it. Okay. I loved the way you are celebrating, which is vibrant also, and I love your music. I love the joy you transport through music also in the Holy Masses, which is just beautiful. I told you several times now, the faces, the faith, the vibrance, the glowing, that's just the shining, that's amazing. So I really love that. Another thing I really appreciated is your love for priests. You know, it's amazing. We had this priest with us, Father Georg, and he was loved by everybody. You know, he was wearing his soutane. Everybody recognized him as a German priest, and you know, children came running, and people talked to him. They wanted a blessing, and he was very open and went to the people and gave little cards away, and people just loved it. But you would never have a reaction like that on a priest from Nigeria in Germany. You know, nobody would be interested. I mean, because people are not interested in priests, you know, like that. So that was really, really amazing to me, and I loved it. It's just, it's so good to see, you know, because I think it's normal. Priests can do something for us. We can't do. I mean, we're women. We can't even be priests. So so it's so good to have them. So we should honor them. We should, and you do it. So that's very good, and it made me rethink, because we do have some. I think even in my parish in Cologne, we have someone from Nigeria, and I never talked to him. You know, I never went up and said, "Hey." I think I went up once and told him, "Hey, I loved your sermon," but that was just once, you know. But I never really tried to get in touch because we're not used to it like that. So I've definitely decided to go back to Cologne and talk to him.
That would be a very nice step to take.
Yes, and I talked to him about my experience in Nigeria and that I really loved it.
Thank you so much. So, what would you say about the dishes? Did you enjoy any? Can you mention one or two dishes one or two meals, our delicacies you took while having,
the meals.
The food.
The food, yeah.
Yes. So how does it taste like? Do you like it? Did you enjoy?
I have to say I didn't taste everything.
Okay.
And I think you might guess that it's for Europeans, it's a bit difficult to adjust. I loved that it's spicy.
Okay.
And so I loved your jollof rice and fried rice. Even though I'm not so sure what it does to my stomach, but people say that you can get used to it. But I really liked it. I tried. How do you pronounce that? Abacha.
Abacha. You pronounced it correctly.
I loved that. I love that. That's very good. And your chicken, if it's not too spicy, it's just perfect. So no, I really liked it, but you have to be careful, I think, as a European. I mean, you know, and I love your beer.
Do you take that?
I don't drink beer, not at all.
Did you taste the local one, the palm wine? Did you?
No, I didn't. I didn't have the chance. I'm so sorry about that. You
should try that. Yeah. Very, very lovely.
So next time, I have to come back for that.
Please do.
If I don't have the chance today, I'll come back for the palm wine.
Please do.
No, it's just that usually in Europe, I drink wine or, you know, Prosecco. But here, Maggie told me to try the beer, and I think in the beginning I was a bit shy, so I started with a Heineken. But then I went to Hero, and I'm not going to be on a publicity now, but I'm sorry. So drop those words, but I tried local beer.
Okay, thank you.
And I really liked it.
I love the fact that you love all of this and always visit to have most of them. I mean, enjoy yourself. We have a whole lot of tasty meals, but you know, you have short time to spend here in Nigeria. You will not have that time now to enjoy as much as possible, but do always come from time to time to have taste of all those. All right, so this is where we wrap up today's special roundtable here on Go Uni Radio 106.9 FM with me. Here, the beautiful, amazing elegant doctor you've been listening to all this while, Dr. Claudia Kaminski. Yeah, she happened to be our guest, our special guest here on Going Radio 106.9 FM. Please always tune in to 106.9 FM. You can as well follow us on Instagram at 1069 Go Uni Radio and Facebook as well. And then YouTube at Go Uni Radio 106.9 FM. Always to be part of this roundtable. Please, thank you so much for coming around, and I look forward to have you once again here.
Thank you very, very much for having me. It was a pleasure.
You're welcome.